Timing tests the soul in ways most people never expect. When love appears at the wrong moment, it creates a deep internal conflict between the heart and reality. On one side, there is a powerful emotional recognition, a sense that this person matters, that the connection is meaningful, that something about it feels rare. On the other side, there are circumstances that refuse to cooperate. Life may already be complicated. Responsibilities, commitments, distance, emotional wounds, or unfinished chapters from the past may stand in the way. The heart says yes, but life says not yet. This tension is not accidental. It forces two people to confront parts of themselves that would otherwise remain hidden. When love arrives too easily, people often take it for granted. But when love appears at the wrong time, every emotion becomes magnified. Every conversation carries weight. Every moment together feels temporary and therefore more intense. The soul becomes aware that something important is happening, yet it cannot fully hold on to it. In these moments, timing becomes a mirror. It reflects who a person truly is beneath their surface identity. Some people run away from the emotional pressure, convincing themselves the connection was only an illusion. Others become obsessed, trying to force the relationship into existence despite the obvious obstacles. But a deeper response begins when someone accepts the painful truth that certain connections cannot fully unfold yet. This acceptance is not weakness. It is a form of psychological maturity. It requires the ability to hold two truths at once. The connection is real and the timing is wrong. Most people struggle with this paradox because the human mind prefers clear answers. We want things to either work or fail, stay or disappear, become permanent or vanish completely. But life rarely moves in such simple patterns. When timing interferes with love, the soul is being asked to grow beyond immediate gratification. It is being asked to develop patience, awareness, and emotional depth. Instead of clinging to the relationship, the individual begins to examine themselves. Why did this connection feel so powerful? What parts of themselves were awakened by this person? What fears or insecurities surfaced during the experience? These questions turn love into a psychological catalyst. The relationship becomes less about possession and more about transformation. The other person acts as a trigger, activating dormant parts of the psyche that demand attention. Old wounds may rise to the surface. Unresolved emotions may become visible. Hidden desires may suddenly become impossible to ignore. In this sense, wrong timing does not destroy love. It exposes the internal work that must be done before love can truly exist in a healthy form. If two people were to unite, before they have confronted their inner conflicts, the relationship might collapse under the weight of unresolved issues. Timing, therefore, acts as a form of protection. It separates two individuals long enough for them to develop the emotional strength necessary for a deeper connection. During this period, distance often becomes the teacher. When the relationship cannot fully develop, the mind begins reflecting on every interaction, every feeling, every unspoken moment. This reflection creates self-awareness. People start recognizing patterns in their behavior, patterns that previously operated unconsciously. They see their fears of vulnerability, their tendencies toward attachment, or their resistance to intimacy. The soul is being tested not only in its capacity to love another person, but also in its willingness to grow beyond its current limitations. Real love requires psychological evolution. It demands self-knowledge, emotional stability, and the courage to confront one's shadow, timing becomes the mechanism that ensures this evolution begins. Sometimes the connection fades as people grow in different directions, yet the internal transformation remains. Sometimes life brings the two individuals together again years later, when both have changed enough to meet on equal ground. In both cases, timing served its purpose by forcing the soul to move beyond its previous state of consciousness. A connection feels unusually familiar in a way that logic cannot easily explain. When most people meet someone new, the relationship begins slowly. Conversations are careful, personalities unfold gradually, and trust takes time to build. But sometimes a different kind of encounter occurs. Two people meet, and almost immediately something feels strangely natural, as if the distance between strangers disappears within moments. It does not feel like the beginning of something new. Instead, it feels like remembering something that was somehow forgotten. The conversation flows without effort. Silence between them does not feel awkward or forced. Even the smallest interactions carry a sense of comfort that normally takes months or years to develop. There is a quiet recognition beneath the surface, a feeling that this person understands you without needing long explanations. This sense of familiarity often confuses the rational mind. People try to explain it with simple reasons. They may think they share similar interests, similar backgrounds, or similar experiences. While these factors can create connection, they rarely explain the deeper emotional resonance that sometimes appears instantly. The familiarity feels psychological rather than circumstantial, as if two inner worlds have somehow aligned. In these moments, people often reveal parts of themselves they usually keep hidden. Personal stories come out unexpectedly. Thoughts that are normally filtered suddenly feel safe to express. There is a sense that the other person will understand rather than judge. This openness can feel surprising, even slightly unsettling, because it breaks the usual social patterns that protect individuals from vulnerability. The familiarity also appears in subtle ways. Sometimes it is reflected in body language, where two people unconsciously mirror each other's gestures or posture. Sometimes it appears in humor, where both individuals laugh at the same small observations. Other times it shows up in emotional reactions, where one person can sense the mood of the other without any words being spoken. The mind may question why this happens. It searches for explanations, wondering if the feeling is simply imagination or temporary excitement. Yet the emotional experience remains strong. It feels less like attraction built on appearances and more like recognition rooted in something deeper. Part of this familiarity comes from shared psychological patterns. Human beings carry complex inner worlds shaped by childhood experiences, emotional wounds, values, and unconscious desires. When two people carry similar patterns, they often recognize each other on an instinctive level. Even without consciously realizing it, they sense the emotional landscape of the other person because it resembles their own. This recognition can create a powerful sense of comfort. It feels as if someone finally speaks the same emotional language. Words are not always necessary because the understanding exists beneath them. The connection feels effortless, not because the relationship is simple, but because both individuals intuitively grasp each other's internal struggles and motivations. However, this familiarity can also create a sense of intensity. Because the connection feels immediate, it bypasses the slow protective barriers that people normally build around their emotions. Feelings can develop quickly, sometimes before either person has fully processed what is happening. The experience may feel exciting, but also slightly overwhelming, as if something deeper than ordinary attraction has suddenly appeared. Many people try to dismiss these moments because they seem too unusual to trust. Society often teaches that relationships must develop slowly and predictably. When a connection feels instantly meaningful, it challenges these expectations, yet the emotional truth remains difficult to ignore. The unusual familiarity does not guarantee that the relationship will be easy or permanent. Life circumstances, timing, and personal growth still play powerful roles in shaping the future of any connection. But the feeling itself carries significance because it reveals how deeply human beings can recognize each other beyond surface identities. In rare moments, two people encounter each other and sense something that words struggle to describe. It is not simply attraction, curiosity, or coincidence. It is the quiet awareness that somewhere within the complex structure of their personalities, something aligns in a way that feels both mysterious and deeply natural. The timing is clearly wrong, and this is often the most painful part of a powerful connection. When two people feel a deep bond, but circumstances refuse to cooperate, the situation creates a conflict between emotion and reality. The heart recognizes something meaningful, yet the external world seems determined to place obstacles in the way. Life rarely pauses to allow perfect moments for love to unfold. And sometimes the most profound connections appear during the most complicated chapters of a person's life. One person may already be involved in another relationship. Another may be focused on career, family responsibilities, or personal struggles that demand full attention. Sometimes physical distance separates them, placing entire cities or countries between two people who feel strangely close. Other times the barrier is emotional readiness, where one person is still healing from past experiences and cannot open themselves fully to a new bond. The wrong timing creates confusion because the emotional experience feels genuine. When people meet someone who resonates deeply with them, they often assume the relationship should naturally develop. But when circumstances resist that development, the mind begins searching for explanations. Some individuals try to convince themselves the connection was exaggerated or temporary. Others attempt to force the relationship forward despite the obvious complications surrounding them. Yet the reality remains that certain moments in life are simply not prepared for deep union. Timing reflects the broader structure of a person's life journey. Each individual moves through phases of growth, responsibility, healing, and transformation. When two people meet during incompatible phases, the connection may exist emotionally while the environment around them remains unstable or incomplete. This situation places both individuals in a psychological dilemma. If they ignore the connection entirely, they may feel they are abandoning something meaningful. If they pursue it recklessly, they risk creating chaos within their lives and potentially harming others. The tension between these choices can produce deep inner reflection, forcing each person to confront their priorities, fears, and long-term values. Wrong timing also reveals the difference between desire and readiness. Desire may appear instantly when two people recognize a connection. Readiness, however, develops slowly through personal growth and emotional stability. A person may deeply care for someone yet still lack the maturity or life circumstances necessary to sustain a healthy relationship. Without readiness, even the strongest attraction can struggle to survive the pressures of real life. During these moments, individuals often become aware of the unfinished aspects of their own identity. Perhaps they have unresolved emotional wounds from the past. Perhaps they have not yet developed the independence required for a balanced partnership. Perhaps their life direction remains uncertain, making it difficult to share a stable future with someone else. The presence of a meaningful connection brings these internal realities into focus. The wrong timing, therefore, acts as a form of psychological exposure. It reveals the distance between who a person currently is and who they must become in order to truly share life with another individual. Instead of allowing the relationship to progress naturally, life pauses the process and places both individuals in a period of reflection. This pause can feel frustrating because the emotional energy between two people does not disappear simply because circumstances are difficult. The connection may remain present in thoughts, memories, and subtle reminders. Even small interactions may carry strong emotional significance because both individuals are aware of the potential that cannot fully unfold. Some people interpret wrong timing as a sign that the connection should be abandoned completely. Others see it as evidence that something deeper exists beneath the circumstances. Regardless of interpretation, the experience often leaves a lasting psychological impact. It forces individuals to confront the complex relationship between love and life structure, showing that meaningful emotional bonds do not always arrive when everything else is perfectly aligned. Timing becomes the invisible force shaping how and when certain relationships can evolve, determining whether two people are able to move forward together or must first continue their journeys separately until life itself changes its conditions. Separation does not erase the connection when the bond between two people carries deeper psychological meaning. In many ordinary relationships, distance slowly dissolves emotional attachment. Time passes, memories fade, and the presence of new experiences replaces the feelings that once seemed strong. Human beings naturally adapt to absence, allowing their minds to move forward and focus on the present moment. But certain connections resist this pattern. Even when two people are separated by time, distance, or circumstance, something within the psyche continues to hold the memory with unusual clarity. When a connection operates on a deeper level, separation changes its form rather than destroying it. The daily interactions may disappear, but the emotional imprint remains active within the mind. People often notice that even after months or years, small reminders bring the memory back instantly. A familiar song, a certain place, or a simple thought can revive emotions that were never completely resolved. It feels as if the connection exists beneath the surface of everyday life, waiting quietly within the unconscious. This persistence is often surprising because the human mind expects distance to weaken emotional ties. Yet some relationships leave such a powerful psychological mark that they continue influencing thoughts and emotions long after the physical presence of the other person has vanished. The connection becomes part of a person's internal world rather than remaining dependent on external contact. Separation also transforms the way the mind reflects on the relationship. When two people interact regularly, daily life fills their attention with practical details. Conversations, responsibilities, and routines shape how they see each other. Once separation occurs, those distractions disappear. What remains are the emotional impressions that defined the connection in the first place. The mind begins to revisit specific moments, replaying conversations and expressions that once seemed ordinary but now carry deeper meaning. During this process, people often become more aware of the emotional truth behind the relationship. Without constant interaction, they can observe their feelings from a distance. They begin to understand why the connection felt powerful and what parts of their own personality were activated by the presence of the other person. Separation creates space for reflection, allowing hidden emotions to rise into conscious awareness. Sometimes this reflection reveals unresolved questions. Individuals may wonder what might have happened if circumstances had been different. They may think about opportunities that were missed or feelings that were never fully expressed. These thoughts are not always rooted in regret. Often they arise from the natural human desire to understand significant experiences. When a connection carries psychological depth, the mind continues searching for meaning even after the relationship has ended or paused. Separation can also strengthen the symbolic presence of the other person. When someone is no longer physically present, the mind often preserves an idealized image of them. Memories become concentrated around meaningful moments rather than ordinary details. The connection may begin to represent something larger than the individual themselves. It can symbolize personal growth, emotional awakening, or a turning point in life. In this way, the relationship continues shaping a person's internal development even without active interaction. The memory becomes part of their psychological landscape, influencing how they approach future relationships and understand their own emotional needs. The experience may teach them about vulnerability, attachment, or the complexity of human connection. Occasionally, separation does not remain permanent. Life has a way of moving in unexpected directions, and paths that once diverged may cross again under different circumstances. When this happens, the old connection often reappears with surprising intensity. Both individuals may realize that despite the years or distance between them, the emotional recognition has not completely disappeared. Even when people never meet again, the influence of the connection remains woven into their personal story. It becomes one of those rare experiences that continues to echo quietly in memory, shaping how they understand themselves and the mysterious ways human relationships can leave lasting impressions on the soul. The connection forces you to grow in ways you never expected when you first met that person. At the beginning, it may feel like a simple attraction or an unusual bond that brings excitement and curiosity. But as time passes, the relationship begins to reveal something deeper. It does not simply offer comfort or companionship. It challenges parts of your personality that you may have avoided for years. Instead of allowing you to remain the same, the connection begins to push you toward self-examination. Some relationships exist only to entertain the mind and fill moments of loneliness. They are pleasant, predictable, and rarely disturb the structure of a person's life. But certain connections carry a different energy. They feel intense because they activate emotions that lie beneath the surface of everyday identity. Suddenly, thoughts and feelings that were once hidden become impossible to ignore. The presence of the other person acts like a mirror, reflecting aspects of yourself that you may not have been ready to see. This process can feel uncomfortable because growth rarely occurs in perfect emotional comfort. The connection may reveal insecurities that were previously buried. You may notice fears of rejection, abandonment, or vulnerability appearing in situations where you once felt confident. These reactions are not created by the other person. They already existed within the psyche, waiting for the right moment to surface. The relationship simply brings them into awareness. When someone triggers such deep emotional reactions, it forces you to question why those feelings exist. Instead of blaming the other person for the discomfort, you begin examining your own patterns. You may realize that certain habits in your behavior have been shaped by past experiences. Perhaps old wounds from previous relationships still influence how you react to closeness or distance. Perhaps you have built emotional defenses that protect you from pain, but also prevent genuine intimacy. Through this reflection, the connection becomes more than a relationship between two individuals. It becomes a psychological catalyst. The other person unknowingly activates dormant parts of your inner world. Desires you ignored may suddenly feel urgent. Dreams you postponed may begin demanding attention. Even your understanding of yourself may start to shift as you recognize that your identity is more complex than you once believed. Sometimes the growth appears in subtle ways. You may become more aware of your emotional needs and boundaries. You might begin communicating more honestly because the connection feels too meaningful to hide behind superficial conversations. At other times, the transformation is more dramatic. The relationship may inspire you to change major aspects of your life, such as pursuing a new path, leaving unhealthy environments, or confronting fears that once controlled your decisions. The most powerful part of this growth is that it continues even if the relationship does not remain permanently. Once the process of self-awareness begins, it cannot easily be reversed. The mind has already seen the truth about its own patterns, and that awareness creates lasting change. The connection may fade or evolve into something different, but the internal transformation remains active. In many cases, people only realize the depth of this growth after some distance has passed. When they look back, they see how much the experience reshaped their understanding of love, identity, and emotional vulnerability. They notice that they became more conscious of their behavior, more honest with themselves, and more capable of forming authentic relationships in the future. The connection, therefore, serves a purpose beyond simple companionship. It acts as a doorway into deeper psychological awareness. By confronting the emotions it awakens, individuals begin the process of understanding themselves with greater clarity. The relationship becomes part of their personal evolution, guiding them toward a more mature and integrated version of who they are. Life keeps bringing you back together in ways that often feel difficult to explain through logic alone. When two people share a connection that carries deep emotional meaning, their paths sometimes continue crossing even after separation. Time may pass, circumstances may change, and both individuals may move forward with their lives, yet unexpected moments appear where they encounter each other again. These encounters often feel strangely significant, as if something unseen continues guiding their stories toward brief intersections. At first, such moments may appear as simple coincidence. Perhaps you run into each other in a place neither of you expected to visit. Perhaps a casual message arrives after years of silence. Sometimes mutual friends unknowingly reconnect the two of you through conversation or shared events. These situations may seem random on the surface, yet the emotional impact they create often feels much deeper than ordinary chance meetings. When people reconnect after long periods of separation, they often notice that the emotional recognition returns almost instantly. The familiarity that once existed does not require time to rebuild. Conversations quickly move beyond superficial topics, returning to the same sense of understanding that existed before the distance. Even if both individuals have changed over time, something essential about the connection remains intact. These repeated encounters can create a feeling that the relationship is unfinished in some way. The mind begins wondering why life continues placing the same person back into its path. Questions emerge about whether the connection still carries meaning, or whether there are lessons that have not yet been fully understood. Each new meeting feels like an opportunity to see the relationship from a different perspective, shaped by the experiences both individuals have gained during their time apart. During these reunions, people often recognize how much they have grown since the first time they met. Life experiences may have changed their priorities, beliefs, and emotional maturity. The individuals who reconnect are rarely the same people they once were. This transformation can make the connection feel different, while still preserving its original depth. Conversations may reveal new insights about the past, allowing both people to understand their earlier circumstances with greater clarity. Sometimes the timing that once prevented the relationship from developing has changed. Responsibilities may be different, emotional wounds may have healed, and life directions may have become more stable. In these situations, the reconnection creates a sense that something once interrupted now has another chance to unfold. The emotional familiarity combines with the maturity gained through time, producing a different dynamic than the one that existed before. In other cases, life continues moving the two individuals in separate directions despite their repeated encounters. The connection remains meaningful, yet circumstances still prevent it from becoming a permanent partnership. Even in these situations, the reunions often provide a sense of closure or understanding. Each meeting allows both individuals to see how their lives have evolved and how the connection influenced their personal development. These recurring intersections reveal how relationships can operate beyond the simple boundaries of time and proximity. Some people enter our lives briefly and then disappear without leaving a lasting trace. Others appear repeatedly at different stages of our journey, becoming part of the story that shapes our understanding of love, identity, and emotional connection. The feeling that life keeps bringing two people together does not necessarily mean that destiny guarantees a shared future. Instead, it reflects the way meaningful connections continue influencing the paths individuals take. Each reunion becomes another chapter in the evolving narrative of their relationship, offering new perspectives on what the connection represents within the larger context of their lives. Through these repeated meetings, both individuals are given moments to reflect on how far they have come and how their lives have been shaped by the encounters they once believed were temporary. The connection remains present not only in memory, but also in the subtle ways life continues weaving their stories together at unexpected moments